Prime Day hangover for Amazon, the retail giant, is promising to cooperate as Brussels launches an investigation into whether the company is abusing its market dominance. The EU Competition Commissioner says this about preserving choice and low prices for people like you and me. Let me read what Margaret Vestager has to say. She said, "I've decided to take a very close look at Amazon's business practices and its dual role as marketplace and retailer." Amazon marked the end of its annual Prime Day sales by celebrating with a star-studded concert. Taylor Swift headlined the show. Amazon doesn't disclose exact figures, but it says that more than 175 million items were sold in just 2 days. Then the EU swooped in to ruin the party. At issue is the buy box on Amazon's website. The box is a massive boon to any seller that has it, greatly increasing the chance of making a sale. However, Amazon decides which sellers get the box and which don't, and how they decide that is very unclear. And remember, Amazon not only hosts a marketplace, but is increasingly a seller as well. An EU fine could be massive, potentially up to 10% of Amazon's annual turnover. In other words, around $23 billion. Behind all of this is Margaret Vestager, who has been quite the thorn in the side of big US tech firms. This is potentially the last investigation she'll launch as EU Competition Commissioner before her term ends in October. Paul Rafelson is the co-founder of the Online Merchants Guild. He joins us live now via Skype from Stamford, Connecticut. Paul, thank you so much for being with us. So my question to you is it a level playing field when it comes to third-party sellers on platforms like Amazon and Amazon, the retailer itself? Is the game rigged, do you think?
It's most certainly not a level playing field. And the game is, it's not that it's rigged, I think it's just misunderstood. I think the thing that Amazon does really well is its misdirection in sort of calling itself a marketplace. But, you know, we always challenge people to sort of take a look at what a traditional marketplace looks like. I just got back from a seller conference in Jerusalem, and I got to experience what a real marketplace is, where there's autonomy among the retailers operating in a marketplace. Amazon sellers are suppliers. I mean, that's the mistake that I think the first mistake we've noticed with the EU is that, you know, we hope through their investigation they start to figure that out, that a lot of what Amazon does in the world that, you know, isn't really, you know, fair in the way they conduct business stems from sort of this notion that they're just a marketplace. But, you know, when you break down the reality over, you know, the substance over the form, really they're nothing like a traditional mall. You know, if you go to the Mall of America, for example, in Minnesota, every storefront doesn't say Mall of America in big print and put the retailer's name in tiny print, preventing the retailer from having access to the customer, from marketing to the customer, from selling to the customer. So, I mean, for step one, I think we would like to see, obviously, you know, some questions as far as, are we calling Amazon the right thing when we say it's a marketplace, or is it really just a retailer?
You know, that's really interesting when you said, you know, that is the term marketplace even valid for a company like Amazon? Are the sort of third-party sellers that are on its platform merely suppliers? My question to you is, given that you believe that the playing field is not level, you're saying it's not necessarily rigged, but it's certainly, in your opinion, not level, what can be done about that? What sort of resources do third-party sellers have to fight back, do you think?
Sure. Well, I mean, our association is a nonprofit. I volunteer my time. I'm a law professor at Pace in New York. I have a law practice where I represent Amazon sellers, and I was asked to lead this project, Online Merchants Guild, to sort of build the first sort of seller trade association to sort of get sellers to start working together and push for fair legislation. So right now in California, for example, we have AB 1790 being pushed by Assemblywoman Buffy Wicks, who is really developing the first of its kind sort of seller fairness legislation to sort of, you know, require more transparency on Amazon, limitations on use of data, things like that. So I think, I mean, sellers need to band together. I tell my sellers, you know, Wisconsin cheese farmers figured out a long time ago that that there are certain issues in the world that you need to work together on. And you know, there's 5 million sellers in the world, and there's just no representation. So when decisions are made about e-commerce, when policies are created, you know who's always missing from the table are sellers, right? I mean, they're talking to the marketplaces themselves, who often rely on that distinction to pursue certain agendas that they really shouldn't get away with. So I would challenge regulators to start by actually talking to sellers, and we try to provide that voice.